Alright, this topic for tonight's homework is the quadratic formula. So it's this big kind of scary looking thing where x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root blah 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 blah. You see it right here. So we're basically going to be using the coefficients for a, b, and c and plugging those in for a, b, and c into the quadratic formula. So this is just plug and chug, simplify as much as possible. We're going to run into 3 different types of scenarios, so you'll see that when we move forward in this video. So looking at number 1, we have the all-important 0 on the right side of the equation. So that's very important. You cannot start the quadratic formula until 0 is on its own on the right side of the equation. So then let's identify what a, b, and c are. So when x squared doesn't have a coefficient, that means the coefficient's 1. So a is 1, b is negative 10, and c is equal to negative 11. So let's go ahead and plug that into the formula, starting with negative b. Negative 10 gives us positive 10. Then we have that cool little plus or minus sign, the square root. So then we have b squared, so negative 10 to the second power, minus 4 times a times c. So a is 1, c is negative 11. So I'm going to extend my square root sign a little bit there. Then it's all over 2 times a. In this case, a is 1. All right, let's start simplifying. We've plugged everything in. We just have to simplify from here. So 10 plus or minus negative 10 in parentheses to the second power is positive 100. And then negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times negative 11 is positive 44. So our sign did change because we had a negative times a negative. And then 2 times 1 is just 2. All right, again, simplify underneath that radical, and we get the square root of 144. And this one's nice because we do know the square root of 144. That gives us 12. So because we have that plus or minus sign, we have 2 answers. One where you treat it as just a plus sign, so we get 10 plus 12 over 2, and then another where we treat the plus or minus sign as a subtraction, 10 minus 12 over 2. So when we simplify those, 22 divided by 2 gives us 11, and 10 minus 12 gives us negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. All right, let's go ahead and try number 2. So the first thing we need to do is realize that we need 0 on the right side. So we're going to add 16 to both sides in order to get 0 on that right side of the equation. So I'm going to rewrite it in proper format, and now we're ready for the quadratic formula. Again, we need to identify what our values are. A is 1, B is 8, and C is 16. So we're going to plug and chug. Negative b, so negative 8 plus or minus the square root of positive 8 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 16, all over 2a, which a is 1 once again. So let's simplify that. 8 squared gives us 64, and then negative 4 times 1 times 16 is negative 64. This is weird. So it's all over 2, and we realize that 64 minus 64 is 0. So the square root of 0 is just 0, so we can erase that and change it to 0. But then again, 8 plus 0 and 8 minus 0 doesn't matter, so we can get rid of the 0. In this case, there's only one solution, and that's negative 4. Usually we get 2, but it's possible to get 1 or none. All right, let's look at these next examples. Number 3, our a value is 2, our b value is 6, and our c value is negative 7. Let's go through and plug it in. Negative 6 plus or minus b squared, which is 36, minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. So again, I'm going a little faster, but again, this is just plugging in and simplifying, so I think you guys can handle it. Negative 6 plus 36 plus 56 over 4. So we get negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 92 over 4. Normally, if the square root of 92 could not be simplified, we would leave our answer like this. However, we can simplify the square root of 92. We did this in topic 3. So let's set it up. We've got the square root of 92 can be broken up as the square root of 4 times the square root of 23, and we know the square root of 4 is 2. So we're going to rewrite this as 2 root 23, put that back in, and it's still all over 4. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. If that first term, the number outside the radical sign, and our denominator all have something in common, we need to simplify it. So 6, 2, and 4 are all divisible by 2, so we need to divide them by 2. So yeah, x equals negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we can just write square root of 23, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. There's our final answer, fully simplified. All right, moving on to the right side, we need to add 10 to both sides in order to get 0 on the right. Now we have our corresponding a, b, and c values. So let's plug those in. So negative 6 is positive 6, square root of negative 6 is 36, and then a times c all over 2a. Simplify some more. Interesting. So we get 36 minus 40, which gives us the square root of negative 4 all over 2. So remember, we can now simplify the square roots of a negative. It's a complex / imaginary number, and there's my beautiful little rainbow because it's imaginary. And so we end up simplifying to get 6 plus or minus the square root of 2i over 2. Simplifying the square root of negative 4 is 2i. Now we're going to do the same thing we did on the left. If those three numbers can all be divisible by the same thing, we're going to go ahead and do that. 6, 2, and 2 are all divisible by 2, so we're going to divide them all by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so that's actually just 3 plus I. And we're done. Here's our you try, and I will say good luck in the take-in voice, and I'll see you in class.